You know, Dean, I recently watched a piece about tipping culture.
Yes.
And one of the gags in it was this guy was kind of filming, from his camera of, like looking at an iPad that had a, option to tip on it, asking how much you want to tip.
Yeah.
And then he pans up and it shows that he's actually ordering coffee from like a fully automated coffee vending machine. That had like a little robot arm in it that would like move the cup around and give you your coffee and grind the beans and stuff and everything. Right. But they put little googly eyes on the robot.
Get out of town.
So I guess that justifies giving you a tip because it's a personification now.
Yes, make it human. Yes.
So you got to tip it some way.
Oh man.
I somehow don't think the robot got any of those tips.
No.
But listen, I don't think we're realistic talking about tipping robots. But automation and AI are starting to become more commonplace in restaurants and hospitality.
Yep.
Definitely restaurants in particular. So today we're talking to Truffle Systems' Sean McCaughan. He's going to tell us about just that concept. We're going to talk about our restaurant owners more receptive to automation and innovation now. Yep. What is his bus pan analogy? And how does it illustrate the benefit of AI to reduce waste, give operators more insight into their customers?
Got it.
And we'll also find out how's Truffle solving the last 3 feet problem. Good stuff we got.
I like that one.
Talking about restaurants, food, and innovation.
Yes, we're solving problems, it sounds like.
Solving some problems and hopefully finding you some good new business opportunities.
There you go.
I'm John Martin.
I'm Dean Reverman.
Welcome to BlueStar Nation. BlueStar Nation is brought to you by Elo. Streamline point of sale with the new Elo Pay 10-inch integrated payment solution featuring a 10.1-inch FHD scratch-resistant touch display, Android 12 OS, and Qualcomm SD660 processor. The Elo Pay 10-inch delivers unmatched quality, speed, and reliability. And with advanced EMV and NFC technologies complemented by the convenience of PCI PTS 6.2 certified pin-on-glass functionality, the Elo Pay system simplifies POS operations, offering the efficiency and security that retailers and merchants require. I don't know what most of that stuff I said really means, but I think it means that you're going to have a very secure experience.
Yes.
It's going to be very customer friendly.
Yes.
All the things that you need to get your customers buying their stuff and moving on pretty quickly.
And very easily,
Which, given that we're about to have a whole conversation about automation and restaurants
kind
and
of important.
I'd say this is the kind of device that would fit into that mold.
Bingo.
I want to learn more. To buy now, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Elo team. All right, our guest today is Sean McCaughan. He is the VP of Sales for Truffle Systems. Sean, welcome to the show. We appreciate having you on. One question I got to ask before, I want you to give me a little detail about your background, but also a question I like to ask folks when they come on to talk about like retail or restaurants. Did you ever do that in your past? Were you a restaurant guy in your past? Did you actually work in restaurants, or have you just been in them enough to know that good technology will make a difference there?
Honestly, my entire life has been restaurants.
Nice.
Starting at like 15 years old, first job in a McDonald's, working the fry bin at a McDonald's. Still have nightmares about it. And then from there, I became a chef, but I've had every conceivable job you can have in like the food environment, like from like bartending to dishwasher to bus pan runner, you name it. And basically, as I was doing all this for decades, basically, I thought to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. So I got into computer science, and I thought, there it is, I'll escape. But then, sure enough, I fell into the company where they were like, well, we need somebody, because we build solutions for restaurants, we need somebody that understands restaurants to work with us. And so I was right back in. I couldn't escape.
Yeah,
but actually, I really do love the environment. It is probably my favorite place to spend time, is in the food and beverage kind of environment.
Yeah. But you can still have nightmares about it. As we've documented, I came out of the pizza industry. I still have to this day. I'll wake up and thinking like I'm missing a shift. Like, oh my God, because we would always put the shift up on the ice machine, right? And so I would have this dream about looking at my name on the ice machine and my shift. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing a shift. Sean, you've had similar?
To this day, if I hear an Epson U220B printer print something, I get an anxiety attack. Anyone that's worked knows exactly what I said. Other people scratching their heads. Trust me, there's certain sounds that trigger me. I got PTSD about it.
I feel like there must be a whole avenue of like therapy out there for this.
For sure. Restaurant is kind of high pressure. People don't realize it, but especially if you're the lead. Oh my Lord, that's like legit pressure that you're under. It's PTSD all the way.
All right. Well,
it's really funny because I describe to people really the exact same thing. The nice thing about a restaurant is your deadlines are never more than 20 minutes.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But you got 120-minute deadlines.
Yeah.
So I do miss that. Now my deadlines would be 2-3 weeks. I'll procrastinate. It's the worst. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, then maybe this conversation could be about how our partners can go out there and maybe help relieve a little bit of this stress.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
These poor folks.
Yes.
Since it sounds like they're all just, like I said, racking up future therapy bills here. So let's get into it. And Sean, obviously, restaurants, there's been a lot of change in restaurants in the last few years since the pandemic. Everything was kind of tipped on its head, and there's a lot of stuff that just hasn't gone back. So has that made it easier for you to having conversations about automation in this industry? Because again, beforehand, I remember once upon a time when the only way you got delivered to your home is Chinese or pizza. That was pretty much it.
That's it.
Your other local restaurants weren't doing that kind of stuff.
No.
There wasn't, as much curbside pickup stuff. There wasn't as much options to
curbside pickup. That didn't even exist, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
So we see that's happened. So, but is that what you're hearing out there? Like, our folks now, because they had to make those choices at the time, or just not even be open, are they more receptive to innovation? Are we finally at a point where some of these ideas are starting to take hold?
100%. The restaurants that survived the pandemic did so because they were mobile enough in their operations to make changes on the fly. Any good restaurateur knows that you can't predict everything, and you have to sometimes in the middle of a shift make a call, and then just watch the room to see what happens. So I think the people that are opening restaurants today and the restaurants that survived the pandemic, all of them have kind of brought on board some form of automation already. So really what we do is we come in and we just make sure that they're up to date on the latest developments and have the latest tools. Because it's incredible how quickly you can fall behind on technology. It only takes 8 to 12 months really to just fall behind your competition. The easiest way to describe that is just to ask yourself if you can think of a single restaurant that doesn't use a third-party delivery system nowadays, and that all appeared in a very, very short period of time. So I do think it is much easier for the modern restaurateur to kind of wrap their head around the benefits of automation.
Yeah, and I think automation is obviously continuing to expand because, and Sean, I think you talked a little bit about this when you were at the Executive Summit, Labor forces have not really changed in the sense that there is a struggle to find and retain good labor. So when you talk about automation, a lot of it and a lot of what Sean's company does with self-service pickup and online and things like that helps to mitigate some of the labor stuff. But when you follow the money, and I'm going to go down that path,
are you going to throw some Kagers at us?
Maybe no Kagers, but I got some money for you. When you look at where people are investing in this industry post-COVID, a lot of the money is, in fact, going into, again, a lot of stuff that Sean's doing, AI-powered stuff, but also like robotics and stuff like that. I mean, so when you look at some of the major investments that have happened, there are companies that do what? They're AI-powered food costing and inventory management, right? So they're getting more efficient on the back end. They're AI-powered robots for food production. So we're getting automation through robotics, not just in food. And by the way, the name of that company is called Chef Robotics. Or a company called Good Bites, which is robotics kitchens that replicate professional chef capabilities.
Let me guess, BYTES?
Yes, of course. Very, very, very
I feel like I should have an extra job, just like helping tech companies name themselves.
It's too easy.
It really
just
is.
take out but
take out some vowels or throw random Y's in for bites and stuff. Yeah, go on.
So when you think about it, though, I mean, are they more receptive to innovation? I think yes is the answer, and it's really kind of expanding in kind of innovative ways around automation, because there's just a lot of focus coming in on the QSR and the restaurant industry to make it more and more efficient. We've talked as well about machine vision and quality control of food and stuff like that. And so, Sean, I know you're not. A lot of your customers come to you with labor challenges, right? And things like that, and they're like, "Hey, how can you help me out?"
It's probably one of the most common things is once upon a time, the solution was labor was so cheap. You're paying some kid $5 an hour, and it was, let's just grab a whole bunch of warm bodies and throw it at the problem. But now you just can't do that. the labor force just isn't there, and the cost is too high. So now it really becomes the most common thing I hear from people in the industry is, oh, if I only had more time, I'd like to do this, or if I had more time, I could probably tell you this. But yeah, using camera-enabled AI, et cetera, you can start to do things like really dig into some of the spending habits of your clients, as well as just the habits of people in general in your restaurant. And every single day, we see people coming out with new solution packages because we have it's just like making a recipe. We have all the ingredients available. Now it's using different combinations to get the best data that we can action to, like, reduce labor costs, increase your labor when you actually need it, and even just like balance a menu better and to adjust your menu throughout the year to maximize. I've seen some demonstrations now of AI literally looking at a full sales report for a year, all the items sold, when it's sold, and can come back and say to you, during your summer months, popping 2 more salads on your summer menu will probably increase your sales, 15%, while reducing your food costs 40%, because now we're not trying to push these items. And having all of this just appear almost overnight in the industry, the people that are implementing it are getting much, much further ahead while doing much, much less work. It's almost like you can imagine the first time Excel was released, there were people that were the early adopters and all of a sudden can do a week's worth of work and kind of data analysis in about an hour and a half all of a sudden. And so it really is more and more of that we're seeing in the industry.
I'll give you another statistic to back exactly what Sean's saying. In restaurants, output per employee between 2019 and 2023, so in a 4-year period, it went from $55,000 per employee, right? So that's the amount of productivity gains, to $72,000. So from $55,000 to $72,000 in a 4-year period. So that's telling, obviously, there's a lot more efficiencies that have come into the place. And Sean, my next question then for you would be like, obviously you live in a world where, it's probably, my question is it easier to have the conversation around digital adaptation within the restaurant, whether it's kiosk conversation, right? And self-ordering, the people that come up or the online order pickup, just a lot of these digitally enabled tools. 5 years ago, maybe those conversations were falling a little bit more on deaf ears. Is it a little easier to have those conversations? Has it gotten to the point where it's table stakes now? Like you're walking in saying, well, if you don't have this stuff, you're going to whatever, die, to use a strong word, but you're not going to be around for a couple more years. What are your thoughts there?
100%. It's one of the things that you really start to pick up on is when something like COVID happens and wipes out so many restaurants, all of a sudden you have the old guard realizing, oh, this could happen to me. And it's very easy when you run a restaurant, just kind of sit on your laurels and be like, yeah, money's coming in, money's going out. I'm making bank at the end of the year. I'm okay. But then you begin to realize if I don't keep up, I'm in a lot of trouble. Now you couple that with a couple other things. Number one, technology has gotten a lot cheaper. When you look at what you can accomplish, most restaurants are always doing, just by the nature of the beast, you're always balancing food costs, etc. So when you go into a restaurant, you're talking about something like, maybe QR table ordering or self-service kiosks or something like that. Everything comes down to the ROI, the return on investment. How long do I have to use this before I get my money back? And then how much more money am I going to be making this year? And we now have enough data that we don't really have to sell anything. People just understand, if I had those 2 kiosks there, I could stay open an extra 2 hours late at night to switch over to just a kiosk only mode. I can run my operation just for the late night crowd with a single cook back there and a single food runner. And people start to automatically do that without me having to sell them on the idea. They've already seen other people adopting it. So I do think it is a much, much easier conversation to have with people. And I do think people are much, much more open to trying different things and kind of turning on their heel. Because I say to everyone, be willing to, even when you adopt technology, to make minor changes, 10, 15% changes to it until you find that sweet spot. Because every single location is just a little different. Just a minor difference. Sometimes that difference is just moving a kiosk from this wall to this wall. Now, when people walk in, they see it right away. They walk up to it. They're not walking up to the hostess station, things of that nature.
Definitely.
Yep. Good stuff.
When I think about, when we talk about this automation concept and these, the new technology getting into restaurants and hospitality, I feel like a lot of times we're discussing mostly the idea of, all right, what can we do for the consumer, for the customer?
Yeah, right.
How do we meet their
enhance that experience?
Yeah. Yes. How do we meet their demands? How do we meet the better experiences? How do we meet their the expectations that came out after COVID of what we're supposed to do now? But a lot of this technology can also benefit you back of the house and from an operational perspective. And I think you've touched on that a little bit, but when you were at our exec summit for retail and hospitality last year and you were giving your presentation about this, there's an awesome analogy you gave about the bus pan, reading bus pans. So, and it was kind of a great way of explaining how AI can assist and help out back of the house as well as out front. So give us that analogy, give us the rundown of what you were saying there. And again, how that actually leads to this conversation of utilizing AI to improve efficiencies at the back of the house and in the kitchen.
The first thing I want to preface this with is there's a lot of stuff that happens in a restaurant that the customer doesn't see. They wouldn't really want to see. And one of the things I love is when you work with an old school chef or somebody who's worked in a Michelin star restaurant, they will do things that look insane but are incredibly valuable because they're that committed to putting out a product. So one of the things we do in restaurants is called reading bus pans. The bus pan, of course, well, the dirty dishes go, those get taken to the dish pit. A good restaurateur will spend some time in the dish pit at the end of the rush watching the bus pans come back. Now, what they're looking for is they're looking for how much food is left on the plates. And they're looking for broad spectrum changes. If all of a sudden every plate comes back, and let's say it's a Greek restaurant selling spanakopita, pita, and you realize a lot of plates are coming back and they have spanakopita pita left on them, which is weird. People always finish that. I've seen this. A chef will reach into the bus pan, grab the leftover spanakopita pita, and take a bite of it. Mm-hmm. What they're trying to work out is it salty today? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you're running 200 restaurants across North America. You can't stand in the dish pit of every single one. You're not going to hire somebody to stand in the dish pit of every single one to look at this. But you can set up an 8K camera right above the spot where those bus pans land. Mm-hmm. And you can have that camera recording as you're pulling plates out, as your dishwasher's scraping them into the garbage, putting them in the dishwasher. And using AI on the back end, it can start to look at those broad changes. So let's imagine it's at the end of the year in the restaurant and you get your AI report of the system that's been watching all these bus pans go through all these plates get scraped. It can come back and say to you, you guys scraped about 320 tons of mashed potatoes into the garbage last year. Mm-hmm. Now, we know by reading the reviews online, people love our mashed potatoes. So that tells us that the portion size is just too big.
Yep.
So if we reduce that portion size by 25%, people still feel full, still feel happy, but we can save the restaurant $800,000. And now all of a sudden you can take this information and make it actionable. And again, these are things that traditionally you would need somebody who understands restaurants and has the time to stand there and really dig into it to do. But instead, what we can do now is we can train an AI to do it. And then we just pop those cameras up. The AI just pulls in all that information and then gives you the answer. Maybe it's a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later. But then those answers can then be used to save you money or make you more money. So, and that's just using bus pans. You can also do the same thing for your reservation logs. You can do it for scheduling. You can do it for any operational efficiency, really. Just you can have an AI camera looking at your staff in the, I remember when the cameras first came out, first started putting cameras up in restaurants. I had one gentleman I worked for who would sit there when he got home, jump in his computer, and stare at the screen, and then would call us and be like, "Got time to lean, you got time to clean." Wait, you're at home. Put on the game, man. What are you doing to me? So you can still do all that, but you do it with an AI that will then come back to you and be like, yeah, from 4 to 7, you can lose one person. And the idea here being is that you're going to be having an initial investment up front, but honestly, within 3 to 6 months, especially if you have a large franchise, you can make changes that really move the needle quite quickly for you.
Fascinating. I mean, the predictive analytics portion of it, it's just, use AI to the best of its ability. And that was a fantastic example of the use of it, right? Through machine vision. I'm not dipping my hand into the bus bin, but what a great way, and what an intuitive way. But that's helping, on so many other aspects that you already touched on. Food cost, what should we order? What are people actually eating, type of a thing. Fascinating. And so you're seeing it there. I think you're seeing it, and it as we know, it manifests itself in marketing. Like, okay, now we can target, we can, design a program or a campaign around maybe hot items that are now verified or things like that. And it is really, really fascinating how AI is kind of changing that, if you will.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. And man, remember, if you recall back at our first episode of this new season, I was saying that one of the big things I was paying attention to this year in trends, especially around AI, is coming up with the practical use cases.
Yeah, right.
Not just the, hey, AI's out there and it's really cool. Do this. Let's figure out how we can just shove it in somewhere and see what happens. But instead hey, here's a way that we can use it that actually makes sense, that has a desirable outcome that benefits everyone all around. And this, to me, is exactly one of those right there. Like, it's obvious what the benefit is of using a little bit of artificial intelligence to just pay attention to what's happening. Again, it sounds so simple, like the bus ban, but at the same time, you laid it out perfectly there, Sean. A little bit of change, a little bit of a nuance of what you're seeing could save a business hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, could save a business, period.
That's
right?
true. Exactly. Yeah.
These guys don't operate on the highest of margins, right? I don't know a whole lot of rich restaurateurs kind of a thing. So, every dollar counts.
Exactly.
My favorite expression is, if you want to make a little bit of money, take a whole lot of money and open a restaurant. People that get into it.
That's right.
The people that get into it because they have a passion for it. They want to share that passion with the world.
Absolutely.
Restaurants really do survive off the money that falls between the cracks. And what we want to do is use, predictive intelligence, et cetera, to plug as many holes in the ship as we can to make sure that you can do what you love, which is, getting your food to your customers, and not be terrified about making rent.
Well, let's dive a little further down that predictive analytics piece then, and the analytics in general, and what AI can help you there with. And let's take it back again to the front of the house. Let's back to the customers. Yeah. So if we're solving all these problems potentially back of house with AI, how can we better understand customers at front of the house using the similar technology?
With something like that, the one thing that you have to understand about AI is AI's food is data. That's all AI wants, is as much data as it can get. And then what it's doing is it's looking for patterns. That's all humans. That's all our brain does. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. What we've done is we've used our brains to create a better data recognition machine. So what we can do is, like, I'll give you an example. Let's imagine, and I could see this within 2 years. You just have a AI subscription you sign up for. That's called like Restaurant AI or something. Now, all this does is it looks at, say, your reservation log, cross-references the names in your reservation log against Instagram handles online. Now what's it doing now is it's looking at the people that come to your restaurant and also looking at where else they go. Every time you take a picture on your phone, where your geotag, what are they looking at? What are their interests? And so you can start to really discover things like, you know what? We discovered that Thursday, Friday, 40% of all the people in here are actually going to a movie right after. So maybe we should set up some synergy with that theater across the street. Maybe we should put something like a dinner and a movie night together. Really kind of reach out to those people. Or maybe it's something different, like I've noticed that 1 in 5 of our beer drinkers really, really like this dark beer. Well, that company also makes this entire line of dark beer as well. Maybe we should bring some more of those in. Now you can really target exactly who's in those seats. And it's one of those things which is really incredible. If you've ever worked in a restaurant that's really successful and has a really, really good staff, one thing you realize is the value of attention. The ability when somebody comes in to be like, hey, Marty, it's so good to see you again. It must be your wedding anniversary. I remember last year you really loved that Chilean red. I got another one to grab for you. Everything you can get at home, eat and drink at home, or eat and drink at a restaurant, you can now get at home. The reason people go to a restaurant is for that interaction. for that customer service, for the experience. And people love that. It would be great if you had the ability to have a concierge there that memorizes every single person coming in, memorizes what they like, what they don't like, where they like to sit. It's just not feasible. Labor-wise, not feasible. But with AI and cameras and all that raw data we talked about, it now is becoming feasible. Where when you go out to a restaurant, it is a very personalized, intimate experience. And all of this can be communicated to your, front door staff, your hostesses on a tablet as you're coming in. The questions come up like, hey, how's your son doing? How was the soccer game 2 weeks ago? Did that pan out well? People love that. Even if they know you're being prompted, they still like it. It creates this really great social contract and this warmth to restaurants, which I really think of the last 20 years, people always talk about the death of customer service. I think with the technology, we can start to kind of pull everything back there. We get our staff to stop spending so much time, washing dishes, sweeping up, etc. Automate all that. And now we take our staff, our core staff, we turn them into brand ambassadors. And we really make sure that people coming in feel like at the end of the night, I'm so glad we came here tonight. It was such a great night. And AI, I think, is going to be central to us accomplishing that.
What a nice picture you just painted. I couldn't agree more. I mean, right? Use the human capital in ways to interact with humans. We can automate a certain amount of things, but when it comes down to a very emotional type of things, and that is the personalization. We talk a lot. That word's thrown around a lot. Well, personalize this, personalize that, and I got a can with my name on it or whatever I get. Right. But at a restaurant, it really makes a difference, right? Because it's a more intimate type of an activity. I mean, you're going there to eat. It's like you're walking into somebody's house, literally walking into their kitchen, and vice versa, right? Those owners are usually passionate enough to say, welcome into my world. Right. And so enabling the personalization, what a wonderful world that is, right? To be able to do that. Even at scale, even doing that at scale, you're enabling franchises to do these types of things as well. I think it's applicable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was going to say the big national chains, they've figured out a lot of this stuff already.
Through loyalty programs and stuff like that.
They have loyalty programs. They already have stuff that people have opted into. They've got whole giant marketing departments and analytics departments that are paying attention to what's happening online and what people are saying about them. They've mastered a lot. To me, this is the kind of thing that speaks to a lot of our solution providers that are working in the SMB market and are working with some of those smaller and mid-sized restaurants that, again, maybe they already are very good at the personalization aspect because maybe they are a little bit smaller. They have regulars. The chef comes out and greets and shakes people's hands and knows who they are. That stuff's great. But to your point, let's say they're wanting to take that next step. Maybe it's time for them to start building out and franchising. Maybe they want to open up 3 or 4 new locations, or there's a lot of staff turnover in some way, and they need a little assistance with that. Or again, they just need that little bit of an extra edge because we also know a lot of these. As Sean, you said the idea of take a lot of money and spend it to make a little bit of money. These folks are living on the edge of whether they're going to keep their business open.
For sure.
And if you're able to give them a little bit of something extra, like, hey, you're already doing so many things great. What if I give you just a little bit of an extra edge that can take you a little bit further to reach a few more people, to get maybe 2 more heads in the restaurant every night, and how much impact that would have on your bottom line? Yep. I think this kind of stuff really speaks to that for that level of restaurateur to be able to go to them and say, hey, you know what? You're never going to compete with the Olive Gardens of the world.
Yeah,
and
nor
that's
would
okay.
they want to, right?
Your food's probably better anyway. So let's help you figure out how to replicate a little bit of what they're able to do at a massive scale, but still be able to do it at your scale for, in an affordable way that actually works on your business. I love it. I think, again, great practical use case for this kind of stuff.
Yep, for sure.
The thing I really love that you touched on there is you just need 2 extra tables at the end of the night, 2 covers. That's all we're looking for. Because sometimes it is something that simple. And I think having some form of a subscription model for an AI just to give you that little extra outreach. Sometimes it could be something as simple as the AI could look at the average spending habits of people in your area and say, all you need to do is a very localized Instagram blast at 4 p.m. on a Thursday to get just a couple more tables in. because those extra tables might seem really small, but at the end of the month, the end of the year, it makes a massive difference to the operators. Yep. And at the end of the day, there's nothing sadder than somebody who has a really, really great concept and has really poured like their, blood and tears into it. And then just for some reason, no one hears about it until it's closed. We see this every day. Restaurants are like, oh, they were great, they were fantastic. Just nobody went there. Nobody knew about it.
Nobody knew about it. Right. Yeah.
Broke through that wall. Yeah.
Hate that. All right. Well, we're going to let Sean here in a moment tell us a little bit more about some awesome stuff they're doing at Truffle.
Yes.
And in particular, how you might be able to work with them on some great technology to go out with your customers as well. Before we do that, a quick note of what's going on around BlueStar Nation. Hey, have you been on BlueStar Nation, the website, lately?
They should.
If you're checking out the podcast, you should be checking out our BlueStar Nation blog as well. We're out there. We're busy out there. We have been surveying end users in a variety of industries to learn about their preferences and challenges for buying, using, and maintaining their business tech. We've done We've done 2 surveys that have already been released. We've got 2 more that are in the hopper.
We just dropped one the other day.
Yeah, we're busy with this stuff right now. So not only do we get the data, but then we analyze it. We present takeaways. We figure out ways that you can refine your sales approach, find new opportunities, and more importantly, go out and potentially win some business with those insights. Some of our recent surveys have unpacked hospital staffing challenges and the potential for robot solutions. We spoke to retailers about MPOS, payments, support preferences, and more. Next up, we got a deep dive into educational digital displays and healthcare mobility as well.
Nice.
We need to get another restaurant one in there. We did one, it's been about 2 years ago now. We need to get a new survey in there with some restaurants.
Absolutely.
Get some more insight there too.
Yes.
So don't miss out on this valuable data. Go to nation.bluestarinc.com, subscribe so you can get some updates on future posts as they become available too. And of course, as always, if you like what we're hearing about here on the podcast, few things you can do. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you're listening on an audio podcast or platform of your choice, if there's an option in there to leave a review, leave a rating, or share it with a friend, please do that as well. It's a big help for us in the show.
Yep.
And of course, send your ideas into us. We want to know what you want to hear about on the podcast and make sure that we are getting to those some of those talking points ourselves.
Hey, we got t-shirts on that front?
Not yet.
We'll get a t-shirt going.
I mean, I can send you an old Tech Connect podcast t-shirt.
Yeah. Marco, we need shirts. What are we doing? All right, he's got a thumbs up. Yeah.
Marco's going to get to work on the next iteration of t-shirts. So, and hey, if you do get one of those, we'll throw in one of the old ones to you. Just as an extra.
What the
bonus.
heck? Yeah. For an oil rag.
Yeah, it's like an antique classic now.
Yeah.
Oil rag. There you go. Exactly. We'll sign him. There you go. As Marco was saying in the background, we could sign him.
Yeah.
Get one of those silver pens and just sign our names to him.
Yeah.
How much more valuable will that be?
Exactly not.
Man. As always, you can always find us on BlueStar's LinkedIn page, Facebook, or email us anytime, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, let's wrap up as always, starting with a little VAR value here.
Yep.
We've been talking about a lot of interesting technology, and something we really haven't touched is that Truffle's you mentioned a little bit, Truffle's got a great business going on when it comes to the locker system and the ability to how people can collect their food in an automated way or in a more efficient way. So Truffle is obviously looking to seek to solve what you guys call the last 3 feet problem. So explain a little bit of what that problem actually is. How does your GoBox solution help? And then how can VARs work with you to help them win some business here?
The last 3 feet problem is something I came up with a couple of years ago. Whenever you're working for a tech company, what I always say to people is look for a solution to a problem that no one's trying to solve. Because there's some problems that people are just like, everyone can see it, everyone knows about it, no one wants to deal with it. You walk into any restaurant, there's at least 2 or 3 of those. So what we decided was almost all automation focuses on the front of a transaction. What do you want? When do you want it? Pay for it. Once that's all done, the technology is kind of like, well, we're done here. That's up to the business to deal with, doing the business part. Now, the best way for me to describe what the end result of this is, and everyone's done this, you've needed something. You need to pick up a birthday cake or flyers for a trade show or a bake sale or something. And you did everything right. You went online, you ordered what you want, you put in all your details, you paid for it, and then you get an email or text message saying, hey, it's ready. Come grab it. And you're like, perfect, let me go get that. So you pull up to the location, you double park your car to run in. As you run in, you'll see a line of about 5 or 6 people. and you stop and you're like, oh. And then you do that thing where like, can I walk past it? You're like, I'm not an Uber Eats driver. I can't just walk past it. So you stand there. And the person at the front of the counter is invariably somebody who's asking them about the history of the building.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. What is going on? Right.
Oh my God. I didn't know this guy could ask so many questions. And so now you're getting really, really frustrated because you did everything right. Yep. You went through the system, you paid for it. All you need to do is walk up, grab your item, and get out again. And even the business, they did everything right. And the guy at the front, he just wants to give you an item, but eventually you get up there. And the guy comes up, he looks at you, and you're like, hey, I'm just here for a pickup. First thing he says is, well, did you get a text message or an email? Yes, that's why I'm here. Can I see it? Here you go. And then they'll look behind them, and that's when your stomach drops, like, oh, God, there's so much stuff back there. And so they're digging through, and you're praying to God your thing's ready. Then they eventually hand it to you. You have to check it, and it's funny to me because on the front end of the transaction, everything was so smooth and seamless and beautiful. Yeah. And it's just that last 3 feet. I am here. My product is 3 feet away from me. I just need you to hand it to me. So we looked at that problem seriously, and we said to ourselves, all right, well, let's like really just kind of blue sky this. And so what we looked at was, in the 1930s, 40s, there was things called automats in Chicago, New York, where you come in. It was like a vending machine. You'd throw like 50 cents in, pull out a piece of pie, and eat it in a cafe. And then they just kind of disappeared. So we said, let's take that model. And that model still actually is in use today in the Netherlands, et cetera. If you ever go to Amsterdam, you'll see a lot of those. So we're like, let's take that and let's create a plug-and-play solution. So now when somebody's order is ready, whether it's a pizza, groceries, stationery, whatever, ice skates, it doesn't matter. When that item's ready and that automated email or text goes out to them, let's tie that into our system, which is just an automated box that we custom make depending on what you're handing off. Mm-hmm. So a good example would be I have clients that like to use these for everything from like picking up headsets that need to be disinfected. But now when the person comes up, that text message or email they get will have a PIN or a QR code. So now when I walk in, everything's paid for, I got the message, I don't go to the lineup. I turn to my left, I walk up, I scan my phone, the door pops open, I grab my stuff, I leave. Mm. So that's really what our focus is on. Now, of course, food and beverage is baked into our DNA as a company. So with us, we generally really target this at restaurants. For me, I think the biggest benefit is to environments like hospitals, where a hospital is a crazy place to hang out if you've never, because everyone goes to the hospital, but no one really looks at them. And
I can attest to that, Sean. Nobody's really hanging out at a hospital, but go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No one goes to the hospital for dinner. Nobody does that. It's never happened.
Right.
But everyone in the hospital has to eat, and not the patients. I'm talking about the people that work there. So when you go to the canteen, the cafeteria in a hospital, majority of people there, they're technicians, they're orderlies, they're nurses, they're doctors. They're people putting in 12, 16-hour shifts, beating themselves up, who can't get something to eat because the lineup's too long. Mm-hmm. And that just, it breaks my heart, because these people have unions that fight to make sure that they can get regular breaks. Because if a doctor can't get something to eat, blood sugar is low, and he makes a mistake, someone's going to die. And we can't feed these people. So when we look at solutions like problems like that, the solution becomes we'll create like a white labeled application. Everybody in the hospital that works there, it's automatically on your phone. When you're onboarded, it jumps onto your phone. Mm-hmm. It has payroll deduct. It has all your preferences. It does push notifications. So now let's say you're a nurse. You're at a nursing station. You're working on something. You'll get a notification 5 minutes before your break starts. Hey, I notice every day around this time you get a bran muffin and a cup of coffee. Do you want me just to order that for you? Yes. You go back, if God's going on break. Now when you walk down to the coffee area to grab like your stuff, you're not in a lineup, you're not staying behind 40 other people. You walk up to a GoBox, you scan your phone, you grab your muffin, you grab your coffee, you sit down, and you have a break. Not I'm standing in line getting frustrated, an actual break where you can decompress, so that when you get back upstairs to get back to that job that's so important, you can really focus on it.
Right.
So this is kind of like the spot we're passionate about. Now that scales out to airports It scales out to universities, it scales out to entertainment venues, stadiums, etc. But for the most part, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to create an environment where when somebody has cash and they want to pay for an item, they can get it without a single speed bump. And we've accomplished that now.
Yep.
Definitely.
Quickly and efficiently at that, too. So that integrates into existing systems, Sean, just for clarity?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah. Man, I'm a big fan of this.
We can do fully integrated or semi-integrated.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
We have everybody that approaches us has their own ecosystem. It would be naive of me to say, I'm going to replace everything. So we have to be able, we have to meet people halfway. So we'll go fully semi-integrated. We work with our clientele based on their environments.
Nice.
Love it. Yeah, I've noticed these kind of solutions popping up at the Great American Ballpark where our Cincinnati Reds play. They started instituting something like this a few years back where you order at your seat, you get a notification when it's ready, and then you just walk up to the concourse, go to the box, type in a code or show your phone or whatever, pops open, and you got your food and you're already on your way back, which again, that's another example of a place that is solving a problem that no one ever really cared about solving before, which is who wants to miss all the action to go stand in line for 20 minutes to place an order and then another 10 minutes to get your order when I can just place my order, get notified, and then I just got to walk away for maybe 5 minutes max, or maybe I'm waiting until the inning change and running up there and grabbing it and coming back, Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the TV at the concession stand, but I'm there to see it live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, let's turn this.
Half the time, those TVs aren't even working, or the sound's too far down, and then the big play happens,
delayed,
and everyone's screaming and cheering, and you didn't get a chance to scream and cheer with them, So. That's the kind of stuff.
We are solving problems with Sean.
Sean, you are speaking my language today. All these things that are just making life easier for folks, and I appreciate this stuff. So,
absolutely, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So listen, if you're interested in these solutions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can email us, and we'll get you in touch with Sean and his company.
Yep.
Check out the show notes too. I'll drop the link to Truffle in there. We'd love to send a little more business their way. And again, I just think there's some great solutions there for them.
Great folks, good. Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's wrap up as always with what's on your radar. This is where we get to talk about something in the world of tech, innovation, science, business, news, or whatever we feel like today that we just want to chat about. So, Sean, what's on your radar right now?
I made the mistake of reading something just before bed last night that set me down a rabbit hole in 2 hours. I'm a nerd at heart. I'm just a big nerd, and of course, everyone's heard about quantum computing. I'm sure you guys have heard about the new Microsoft chip that came out, qubits, and all of that, and then the computing power of that system. And I kind of it reminds me, because things move so fast nowadays. It reminds me about 3-4 years ago, the first time I was given early access to an AI, and it reminded me of the first time I was given access to like Google. The first time you could Google something and just have an answer appear. And then the next one was the AI, like it gives you the answer a couple of years ago. I was like, that's incredible. It's like talking to somebody. And now you got quantum computing and the speed that can operate at. It really just wipes all the computers off the planet. Like a single one of these chips can solve problems. Like that would take all the computing power on planet Earth like 800 years to solve. One of these chips can do it in like 15 minutes.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
And it's like mobile. Oh, yeah. And now you got to think in terms of how that scales into like major world problems, whether it be like social, economic, climate change, stuff like that. Imagine if you could just all of a sudden, within about 3 to 4 years, we can ask an AI running with these quantum computer chips. Hey, by the way, planet's on fire. What can we do that's realistic, that won't destroy the economy, and we'll fix it? And it can drag all the information and be like, actually, it's not that hard, guys. In fact, I've engineered something here, and I've already put the order into China. They're on top of it. Don't worry. You guys go back to, doom scrolling Instagram.
We're that much closer to Wall-E now,
I might be overly optimistic. I might be early, but I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong at all. I brought that up the other day because they made up a whole new matter, right?
The topological
qubit. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
And you're right. I think we're just at just the tip of the iceberg of what this stuff can potentially do. So.
Yeah.
All right, Dean, what's on your radar?
So would you like a James Bond car? Would you like one of those? Sean, would you like one of those?
He tends to have the best ride. rides, yeah.
Well, not only that, but the gadgetry. Like if you had a James Bond car, what gadgetry would you insist on? Is it the machine guns? Is it the oil spill?
That wouldn't be good for my road rage.
Sean, what are you? What are you? Are you a rocket guy? Do you want the rockets on them? What would you need for your James Bond car?
Go with ejection seat.
Oh, ejection seat. Okay.
I'd be afraid I'd eject myself on accident.
Well, the reason I ask, and the ejection seat is kind of close here, I guess. Chinese electric car maker BYD debuts a roof-mounted drone launch pad for its models. So, okay, we're not talking complete James Bond. It's not machine guns and stuff like that. But so they've developed a car, and this one had me scratching my head for a long time. It's like, okay, I get it. So you're saying I got a car, and on that car, on the roof of that car is this little pod that I can launch a drone. Why the hell would I want to launch a drone?
What's the purpose
What's
here?
the use case? Well, the only thing, and by the way, this is a $2,000 option that you can put on this BYD car.
Honestly, I would have expected it to be more than that.
But, well, here it is, though. But the drone lives autonomously. So if you launch it, really all it does is it follows you, and it videos you and takes pictures of you.
So is this just like for like influencers and TikToks and shit?
I guess that's the only use case that I can think of here. Like you want that dramatic shot of you going down the road and sprays of water, and you got a drone that's just following you.
It's going to be for car commercials and movies then, basically.
Well, then it's such a limited audience. It's like I'm still scratching my head. It had me all excited at first. It's like, oh yeah, I'm getting in my car. I'm going to launch a drone. But why in the hell am I launching a drone again? Am I under attack? That was the other thing that I thought, well, okay, well now I've got my own drone that I can attack. Sean, you got an idea here?
I'm just thinking like how annoying the average influencer is when you're just trying to walk down the street.
Yes.
It's about to get 10 times. You're just driving around, there's all these drones above you, and you're like, oh, come on, man.
See, we're enabling this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so you're now it doesn't sound like you're lining up for my BYD car that has a drone launcher on top.
At first I was thinking like, does it like scout around to find like the cheapest gas near you?
Oh, that's good.
Is it going to find
a parking spot? Oh, I love that use case. That's a good use case right there.
That stuff makes sense.
Like you pull into a parking lot, hit launch, find me a spot. And it goes find you a spot.
Again, I guess if
like so many collisions in Costco.
Exactly.
The air traffic control there would be nuts. Yeah.
The air traffic control at Costco. Everyone would literally have the towers like black BMW.
Yeah, exactly.
Drones crashing into each other everywhere, and not only do you got to navigate the other cars, you got to just zip around falling drones.
Oh man! See, this is going.
This is one of those concept car ideas that is never going to happen.
Not going to happen. No, James Bond is not going to.
It looks James great Bond on a show floor.
Bond would use it in the way that we just talked about, in the manner that.
If you heard, Amazon now owns the rights to James Bond.
I did not know that.
They bought it from the Broccoli family, apparently. So, it's going to be Amazon drones is what it's going to be.
100%.
He's going to be driving some kind of car. It's going to have an Amazon drone. He's going to drive to Blue Origin and get in a rocket and go to space. And then all the while, there's just going to be like links all over the bottom of the screen to like buy now.
You just wrote the screenplay for the next movie.
Pretty much.
I can't wait for the next time he meets Q for Q to be working at Amazon.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah.
Q will be like, no,
you're going to need this.
I'm sorry, Bond. Sorry, Bond. I don't have that on hand right now, but I'm ordering on Amazon. 2-day delivery.
The Amazon drone drops it off.
It'll be at your hotel in Dubai when you get there. Thanks so much, Q. Oh man.
Anyway, what's on your radar there, John?
Well, I'm gonna get nerdy and like deep hard science that I don't pretend to understand, but it's still fascinating.
Ooh.
Apparently, the good folks at the Large Hadron Collider, those folks that are constantly smashing atoms and ions together, and could potentially end the world at some point.
Yes.
They have now found the heaviest antimatter particle. It's called the anti-hyperhelium-4.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
And essentially what they're doing is they are trying to understand more about basically what happened at the beginning of the universe.
Yes,
That's their whole
goal. Yes.
So with this, they're looking at some potential conditions that could have existed from within the first second of the universe. In particular, what they're really trying to figure out is when the universe was supposedly created, like however this may have happened, there would have been equal amounts of matter and antimatter, because that's just what you would need for such a thing to occur. Yes. Equal amounts. But obviously, we live in a universe where there is a lot more matter than antimatter, because if there was a lot of antimatter, everything would be blowing up and we'd all be back to, we wouldn't have a universe. We'd be back to square one. So they're trying to figure out how did we go from something that was equal into something that is so clearly lopsided on the matter spectrum of things. And they think understanding some of these particles and these kind of antimatter particles will be part of it. Now, I'm not going to pretend I understand too much more than that.
All right.
As always, we always have our links to these articles.
It took me a while just to follow you there to that point.
Right.
But go ahead.
So you can check that out and learn more about how they did it. They used a detector they called Alice. They were smashing lead ions together to find this. Jeez. They've theorized this particular particle for some time, but now we're able to get a substantial look at it and understand how it may or may not work. Again, I don't know what the end goal here is, other than just...
What was it called again? The helium what?
Hang on. Anti-hyperhelium 4.
Anti-hyperhelium.
Right.
Okay.
So they've discovered hyperhelium. That's the matter version. That's the positive matter version.
Oh, this is the anti.
And they knew that there had to be an antimatter version, and that is this that they've now uncovered.
Oh, boy. See, this stuff gets complicated.
Yeah, these people are smarter than you and I will ever be.
I'm going back to my drone car.
Fair enough. I get it. All right, that is what's on our radar. Sean McCaughan from Truffle Systems, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sean.
having you on the show today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for watching. Hey, listen, if you thought we gave good pod today, feel free to consider leaving a tip. Marco, you can put my Venmo QR code on the screen, right?
Hey,
yeah, stick that over. Oh, great, that's perfect.
Yes, all right.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. We'll see you out there in BlueStar Nation.